What's going on, guys? I'm TieFly85.
And I'm T-Rack87.
And today we're going to be talking about our movie news and reviews for the last week, as well as movies that are coming out today.
Let's get started.
What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of MG Nights. We're so happy to see all of you. We're so happy to be back. Today, what me and T-Rack87 are going to be talking about is all of the movies, news, anything that happened over the last week, and the movies that are coming out today. What I wanted to go ahead and start with first, though, is let's go ahead and talk about a few movies that were coming out over the break that we just had, including Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Jumanji, and I also wanted to talk about The Great Showman as well, to see how these movies held up over basically, Christmas, New Year's to now. So I just kind of am curious to see overall how that did, and so let's go ahead and get started right off the bat. Now, as me and T-Rack87 did do our review for The Last Jedi just this past Tuesday, if none of you have seen it, definitely go check it out. It's definitely a great watch if you want to see what we thought of the movie. But one of the really awesome things overall for The Last Jedi in the opening box office weekend for domestic is it did make $220 million. Now, a lot of people are saying that didn't even come close to meeting what The Force Awakens did in the domestic box office for the opening weekend, because the opening weekend for The Force Awakens was $247 million. And so that's only really like less than about 20 million, roughly.
Yeah, it's like 27
give or
million.
take a little bit.
I mean, that's obviously a big number, but like realistically, in the world of Hollywood, where they deal with hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars all the time, it's not that much, really. I mean, to me personally, I feel the same way you do about it. So
with the budget of the Last Jedi being 406 million, which is a huge number, and they're just now hitting over the 1 billion mark for The Last Jedi, which is a huge number overall. The movie itself, as far as that number goes, that's a massive, huge win for Disney. Also, another huge, massive win for Disney was when Michael Eisner, the CEO of Disney, decided to buy out Lucasfilm and ILM to take over Star Wars. It probably was the best decision that not only Lucas made, but also Disney made in getting that, getting that property. As far as it goes for Disney, they did buy out Lucasfilms for $4.06 billion. To date, now, thanks to The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and The Last Jedi, they've actually already gone past that at $4.6 billion. So they definitely have turned a profit. Like, Disney and Star Wars is paying off for Disney, hands down. It almost kind of makes me wonder, T-Rex, how do you feel about this? Do you think George Lucas kind of undersold himself?
No.
Because of the amount of money?
I think $4 billion is plenty, and I think that personally is a fair offer. But when you're selling to a company like Disney, here's the thing, man, is that Disney knows what they're doing. They know how to make movies marketable. They really do. Let's look at like Frozen, for example, like after Frozen came out, Frozen was on everything. They had like Frozen cereal, Frozen cookies, Frozen shoes, Frozen, and so my point to this is that even just the fact that they've just made a profit, and you're talking just the movies, imagine how much money they're making, on merchandise, on toys, on all this other stuff. We're gonna have, Kylo Ren Lucky Charms next year, or whatever. It's gonna be everywhere, and Disney's really good at this. So $4 billion, I think, is absolutely a fair price to buy out a company for, because that's a huge sum of money. But Disney, in the back of their mind, while $4 billion might be a huge chunk of change, they knew they were going to make that back, and it was just a matter of time for them. So I think on both sides, it was a smart business move, personally.
Yeah, no, for sure. I totally agree with you. I personally, if you want my personal opinion, I think that Lucas kind of undersold what the Star Wars property was. Sure, $4 billion is a lot of money, but knowing Disney and how they're able to do what Disney does best, which is toys, marketing, and movies.
Right.
You knew right off the bat that number was going to surpass whatever they planned on it. So it's definitely a huge thing. It's definitely a huge win for Disney. So, congratulations to Disney on a massive, huge win. Now, moving on from The Force Awakens, I did kind of want to talk about the Solo Star Wars story.
Yeah.
I did want to talk about that overall because that movie does come out on May 25th, and I think a lot of people were thinking that we were going to get the trailer for Solo in The Last Jedi, and when that didn't happen, I was really disappointed. What did you think? Did you think we were going to get the trailer for it?
I'm a little concerned for the Solo movie, honestly, just because from everything I've heard about this movie, is that it's just a complete disaster. It's just a total wreck with the director changes and just all this drama. I don't know if they were at any point where they were ready to show a trailer. And I know we were talking about this earlier, that we're both kind of expecting a Super Bowl trailer debut. And my money's on that as well. I mean, you're the one who pointed it out to me. I would bet on Super Bowl. And I just think personally the movie probably wasn't quite at the state that it should have been to release a trailer yet. And they're not going to do anything to damage the Star Wars brand. And hopefully this movie doesn't, because I've heard a lot of weird negative things about it. But they're going to be very cautious, and they're not going to do anything until they're ready, hopefully. And even if I think that personally, if the release date gets pushed back, I think that's a possibility if they don't get their act together. But my bet is Super Bowl. I thought it was kind of weird, but at the same time, I don't know. It would be weird to advertise more Star Wars in a Star Wars movie, just for me personally, I guess. But I'm not the marketing genius at Disney, obviously.
Yeah. No, but I totally agree. Yeah, and as far as the Han Solo trailer coming out, Super Bowl, it definitely seems to be that's where we may eventually end up seeing it. Okay, well, moving on from Star Wars now. So now that we've kind of went over that again for Star Wars, let's go ahead and move back into a few movies that did come out over the break when me and T-Rex87 went on break. One of the last major things to come out, obviously, was Star Wars: The Last Jedi, but then the following week after that, we had quite a few movies that came out. So I kind of wanted to go ahead and go back through to let you guys know how some other movies did compared to Star Wars: The Last Jedi, because I was afraid a lot of these movies were going to get overshadowed because of how big Star Wars was going to be.
Right.
But one of the first ones on my list was Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. And that movie actually did rather well. I was really surprised when I looked at these numbers. The budget for the movie overall was $90 million, and worldwide it ended up doing $352 million. So it was a really huge overall. I mean, domestically, Jumanji made $36 million. So it definitely made quite a bit more money. Sorry, $36 million in its opening weekend. I apologize. Overall, domestically, though, that's a huge, amount of money for such a small budget. I know $90 million it seems like a lot of money, but overall when you're looking at movies, that's a kind of a small budget for such a huge movie, and for it to bring back $352 million, that's definitely a win right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you hear $90 million budget, and it's sad to say, when you hear that these days, you're like, oh, that's a B movie. Movies these days have crazy, insane, $500 million budgets. Jumanji is a movie obviously I haven't seen it, but I am super excited to see it. I think it looks really good. I think that with Dwayne Johnson, I think some of his movies in the last few years, actually quite a few of them personally, and I love Dwayne Johnson, but I think a lot of them have been misses for him, missed opportunities. Baywatch got panned critically, and just a lot of his solo movies where he's the main star have not been great. But Jumanji, especially with all the nostalgia factor, a lot of us growing up saw Robin Williams in Jumanji as kids, and it was such a crazy good movie when we were kids that there's high hopes and high expectations for this movie, and I've heard really, for the most part, good stuff about it. It's got a good cast, I think, so I'm glad it's doing well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely am glad it's doing well as well. And yeah, the cast is definitely amazing. If any of you have seen the trailers, or if any of you have seen it, let us know down below if you guys ended up liking the movie, what you liked about it. It looks like an amazing movie. I really want to see it really bad. And moving on from Jumanji, the next one up on the list that came around the same time. So Jumanji did come out Star Wars came out Thursday. And then the following Wednesday after Star Wars, we had Jumanji. And then that Friday, we had The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman. Now, this was a movie I was super stoked for. I love Hugh Jackman. I also love musicals. So with this movie, I was really super stoked. This particular movie, it had a budget of $84 million. So not kind of a little bit smaller than Jumanji with $90 million. But worldwide, this movie did $102 million. So not really a massive, huge win overall for this movie. But I'm still actually pretty surprised that it did do $102 million. I know that budget was $84 million, so not a huge, massive profit for this movie. Yeah. But it still looks like an amazing movie. I love Hugh Jackman.
Just out of curiosity, do you happen to know, are these budgets purely production value, like what it took to make the movie, or does any of that include marketing?
It's all just budget.
Okay.
No, this does not
I almost
include
wonder
marketing.
if this movie has barely even broken even, just including the marketing. Because I know they were pushing it pretty heavily, like with trailers and stuff like that. For a few weeks, like that's all I was seeing on TV was Great Showman. And I still want to see this movie really bad. It did get pretty. It seems like it's gotten panned quite a bit by the audiences and critically. I've read just some different stuff about it. It just seems like a lot of the people, what they're saying is that it's just kind of a lot of fluff and flash and flair. But you're going to see a musical. What did you expect? Honestly, that's what you're going for. Honestly, is musicals are all about the razzle dazzle a little bit, I think. So, yeah. I don't know what people were expecting exactly, but I still personally can't wait to see this movie, and hopefully my wife and I get to go see it pretty soon. Because I do want to see it. And I do want to review it really bad.
Yeah, no, definitely. I want to see it too. So we'll definitely be seeing that. That'll definitely be one that we'll have on our list that we definitely will be seeing this year for sure. Now, moving on from the box office numbers and the movies that came out after the Star Wars, I wanted to go ahead and talk about movies that are releasing today. Now, the first one that's coming out today is called Molly's Game. That particular movie looks really awesome. T-Rex, I don't know if you've seen the trailer for this or not, but it's basically based on a true story of a lady back in the early 90s, 2000s, where she was known for a gambler. She actually started this huge, massive gambling ring, and they had actors and stars and really famous people, even politicians and world leaders. And so this lady was really famous. And then it's the whole story of basically her trial and how it all went down and everything. So it looks really good. Idris Elba actually ends up playing her lawyer. So he looks like he's going to be really good in this movie. I love Idris Elba.
Yeah, that is actually, I did see the trailer. I didn't know what you were talking about right at first. It just didn't click in my mind, but I did see the trailer. It does look really good. I do want to check that out. So if you haven't seen the trailer, you should go watch it.
Yeah, definitely check out the trailer. Now, the next one up is something I'm super stoked for, probably the next two movies on this list. The first one, though, is Insidious: The Last Key. So they're finally bringing us, I don't know if this is going to be the last of the series or if this is going to give us some closure on the Insidious series itself. But it looks really creepy. It looks super scary, and I love the aspect of focusing on the one main character throughout the whole Insidious series. I love what they're doing with this movie, and I'm really excited to see it.
So I have seen the Insidious trailer. I probably will not be watching Insidious anytime soon. It's too much for me. It's super creepy from the very get-go. And just really, I don't know, it looked kind of gory. Not super gory, but just I saw some scenes in there. Insidious is I'm very cautious about which kind of horror movies I'll see. And if I have to see this one to review it, maybe I would do it. But I as far as the horror spectrum goes, Tyfly85 and myself are on the opposite end of the spectrum. He loves horror movies, and I cannot stand most of them, a good portion of them. So it does look interesting. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's where half the fun comes in, is that you don't like horror and I do. So sure. If we do ever end up doing any type of horror reviews, I think it'll definitely be really fun to see the differences in opinions for sure.
Yeah.
But Insidious: The Last Key definitely looks like it's going to be a really great watch. And I'm curious to see how well it does. I'm curious to see what horror movie this year is going to rival It from last year. because it was the #1 grossing horror movie of 2017. So I'm curious to see what horror movie for 2018 ends up just blowing it out of the water.
God,
I don't think Insidious: The Last Key is going to be that movie, but I am curious to see which one this year will be.
I almost wonder if it's not like it's got to be one of the highest grossing horror movies of all time.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I haven't looked at any numbers, it just kind of popped into my head, but I know literally everyone and their dog went and saw it, and I'm pretty much, I think, the only person on earth who didn't go see it. So, that does make me curious. So I wonder what will come out. I do like suspense horror movies that are really suspenseful and make you think like one way, like something's going to happen, and then something completely different happens. I do like that kind of stuff. I just hate scare factor stuff where it just like things pop out of the shadows and then I freak out and I drop things and I scream and So Anyway, what is your other movie that you were gonna mention?
So the last movie after Insidious, speaking of another horror movie, is actually Day of the Dead: Bloodline. And the reason why I'm really super stoked for this particular movie, I mean, long live George Romero. I love George Romero, and he is such an amazing, for him to create what we know as zombie overall for the entire genre. And they're basically taking Day of the Dead and remaking it. So if any of you are familiar with the original Day of the Dead, it was basically about zombies were overrunning the world, and there was a military facility where everybody was living underground in this military facility. So they're basically, I don't know if it's going to be an exact reshoot of Day of the Dead. It doesn't look like it if you go watch the trailer. They do have a few of the throwbacks from the original movie, like Bub. For all of you who've seen it, you'll know like Bub is the zombie that can kind of like think, and he kind of has like more reasoning abilities than we've ever seen in any other zombies. So it'll be interesting to see where this movie actually takes place. I'm not going to lie, this movie definitely will probably not make very much money, just because it does really seem very low budget. I mean, even from watching the trailer, I'm super stoked because I love zombie movies. I don't care if it's like, a $2 budget zombie flick or, a $100 million zombie flick budget. I still love zombie films, and I'll still watch them regardless. Now, I mean, if the movie's crap, I'll tell you it's crap. But for the most part, though, I pretty much love all zombie movies. So, yeah, that's it for the releases this week.
And the other thing I did want to mention then is that next Wednesday is going to be our review of Bright on Netflix. It is a movie I've been wanting to see for a while, ever since I saw the previews for it. Obviously, if you have Netflix, you can watch it anytime. But we are going to be reviewing it, giving our thoughts and opinions on it next Wednesday. And I am super curious as to what your guys' opinions of the movies are if you have seen it. We'll definitely need to have a discussion next Wednesday about it, because I've heard both that it was really good. I've also heard that it was, and critically, and I swear this is just Hollywood turning on Will Smith, like, because he's not as popular anymore, is that everyone was saying it got critically panned, blah blah blah, but I just feel like sometimes it's like the trendy thing to do, and everyone just like hops on board like the train. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see next Wednesday and see what we think about it.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited to see this movie. I've actually been hearing a little bit opposite of what you've said. I've heard a lot of people have been saying it's really good.
Right, I've heard people people I know say it's really good, but critically, the reviews have been not great. And so, but like I said, I think that's just like I said, I just think it's the Hollywood thing to do right now. I think like some people thought it was bad, and everyone just jumped on the train. That's just my guess without having seen it. If I do see it and it sucks, I'll be really upset because I love Will Smith. But yeah, like I said, we'll just have to wait until we actually watch it and we'll see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that's all we have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate your time. If you guys have seen any of the movies that we previously mentioned, like, obviously we did a video already for Star Wars: The Last Jedi, but if you've seen Jumanji or The Greatest Showman, definitely let us know down below. We'd love to hear what you thought of those movies. It might give us some extra encouragement to go see those movies sooner, maybe. Yeah. But also, too, if you're planning on seeing, Molly's Game, Insidious: The Last Key, or Day of the Dead: Bloodline, let us know down below. I can guarantee you that I will definitely be seeing Insidious: The Last Key and Day of the Dead. So between those two movies, maybe I'll be able to see them before we do this next week. So tune in next Friday to see if I did happen to actually watch either one of those two movies, because I really do want to.
All right, well, that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.
And always remember, stay awesome.
No, never gonna stop.